The C&L Proving Ground Series 4-inch catback that we have here today will be a super budget-friendly way to go big on your 2015 through 2020 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150 in regards to both sound and diameter. Now the C&L will kick in things like the mandrel bent 409 grade stainless steel build throughout, the straight through muffler here, which will allow for a relatively aggressive sound profile, and it's all gonna exit out of that factory location out of this massive 5-inch polished tip. Let's get right into the sound you can expect here with the C&L system in place. And as I just mentioned, this exhaust will certainly turn some heads with its aggressive tone and overall volume. So, breaking out my patented Wake the Neighbor scale, I have the Proving Ground system coming in at a solid 4 out of 5 on my 1 to 5 or 1 to Wake the Neighbor scale. Now inside the truck, on the other hand, things do remain somewhat quiet, but definitely not silent, as there is some noise present while cruising, and this is to be expected with a more aggressive system such as this, especially something that's going to utilize such a large diameter, and more importantly, something that is free of any resonators. You're always going to pick up a little bit more interior noise when all of those things come together, and that will be the case here with the Proving Ground. But with the sound covered, let's move into quality, build, construction, all that good stuff. And as I mentioned at the very start of this video, this is one of the most, if not the most affordable full stainless systems available for this particular gen and engine F-150 at this configuration. Now, with that being said, you're looking at a 409 grade stainless steel build throughout here, guys, which is your mid-level material behind 304 grade stainless, which is your top or premium material. And then you have the aluminized steel kind of bringing up the rear as your more budget-friendly material. 409, very, very solid material. It's going to offer great corrosion resistance necessary for even fairly snowy and salty areas. Aside from that material, guys, you are going to find things like, again, that 4-inch mandrel bent tubing. That is the biggie here with this particular system. Literally, there will be other options that'll offer maybe a 3-inch diameter, dual exit configuration, whatever. This is just big, 4-inch, allowing for a very free-flowing setup in conjunction with the included straight-through muffler. Now, last but not least, guys, this particular system will dump in that factory location behind your passenger side rear tire, out of the massive 5-inch tip here, shown in the more traditional polish finish, but there is also a stealthier black option available for the same price point if you're interested. Hey, and speaking of price point, this is a great time to segue into maybe the biggest feature with this particular system, and that of course is price. Now the C&L 4-inch option is gonna come at or around that low $400 range here, which does make this, again, far and away one of the most affordable full stainless systems on the site for your EcoBoost powered F-150. Now the closest option that maybe you can get to this price point here, guys, will be from MBRP. It's their Armor Light system, which is made from 3-inch aluminized steel, so a lesser material, and it's gonna offer a smaller diameter. So again, if you're looking to go big on a budget, the C&L Proving Ground series is certainly your best bet. Last but not least, let's talk about the installation process here, guys. Site does claim there might be some trimming depending on your wheelbase, basically your cab and bed length, so just keep that in mind. They do lay it out all very clearly for you in the included instructions. Now, because of that, the site will call this one a middle of the road, 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you roughly 3 hours at most to complete from start to finish. And now to give you a better idea of how this one might go down at home, here's a detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
The tools you'll need for this project are an impact gun or a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, a 3/8 drive ratchet, a 10, a 13, a 14, a 15, and a 17 millimeter socket, a 16 millimeter wrench, exhaust hanger removal tool, some spray lube, and a pry bar. Hi everyone, today we're installing an exhaust on our F-150. So let's get started by watching a short video on how to uninstall the stock system.
So first things first, we got to get rid of our factory catback, and we're going to start by lubricating all of the hangers. And then there's 2 13 millimeter bolts on this flange here that we're going to undo as well. That will allow us to push the whole exhaust back and drop it in one big piece. If you are working on the ground, you might have to loosen that clamp right there or bring out the saw to cut this into a couple pieces. But again, since we're on the lift, we're going to take it out in one big piece.
All right, first thing we're going to do is install our front pipe with the flange welded onto it to the factory flange on the exhaust already on the vehicle. We'll go ahead and put this into place. And then we'll use the two M8 bolts with a flat washer on them. Slide those through the factory flange and into our new one. Then we'll put a flat washer a lock washer and the nut onto the bolt. And then do the same thing for the other bolt. Now we're going to snug those up using a 16mm wrench on the bolt side and a 17mm socket on the nut side. Now before we install our secondary pipe, there's a couple things we need to clarify depending upon your cab and your bed configuration as to what of these two pipes you're going to be using. So the first thing is all of the vehicles, no matter their cab or bed configuration, will all of them use the longer of the secondary pipes. However, if you have a regular cab with an 8-foot bed, you will need to trim 4 inches off of the end of this, off of the outlet side, in order for it to work properly. Now, if you have a regular cab with an 8-foot bed, a Super Crew with a 5.5-foot bed, or a Super Cab with a 6.5-foot bed, the secondary shorter pipe will not be used. If you have a Super Crew with a 6.5-foot bed, you will need to cut off 6 inches of the shorter pipe. If you have a Super Cab with an 8-foot bed, you will be using both of these pipes with no modifications done at all. Now we can go ahead and install our secondary pipe. We'll slide a 4-inch clamp over the end and slide it onto our front pipe. We'll go ahead and seat that all the way in, and then we'll snug up the clamp using our 15mm socket. All right, now we're going to go ahead and slide our special hanger clamp over our pipe and into the isolator on the frame. We'll slide that over our pipe, into the isolator, and now we'll snug up the clamp using our 14mm socket. Now there is no right or wrong direction as far as the muffler goes, so we're just going to slide a clamp over the end, slide it onto our secondary pipe. And now we'll snug that up with our 15mm socket. Now we'll slide a clamp over our muffler. And then we can install our over the axle pipe into the outlet of the muffler and insert the hanger into the isolator under the bed. Now we'll snug up our clamp with our 15mm socket. Now before we install our tailpipe, you'll probably find it easier to actually remove the isolator here in the rear. using your 10mm socket, and then we'll transfer that over to the tailpipe and then put the tailpipe onto the over axle pipe. Now we'll slide our isolator onto our hanger. Slide our clamp over our tailpipe. And then put our tailpipe onto our over axle pipe. All right, now we'll push our pipe up, reinstall our bolts for our isolator. Now we'll go ahead and tighten those bolts up. All right, now we'll snug up our tailpipe clamp. Now we can go ahead and slide our clamp over our tip, slide it onto the tailpipe, and snug it down with our 15mm socket. Now that we've got our system completely installed, now it's time to go back, double check all of your clearances, make sure that there's no interference with any of the suspension or hoses or anything like that. Once you're satisfied with the way it looks, go ahead and tighten everything down starting from the front. The manufacturer recommends that we torque these down to 45 foot-pounds. And then once you've got everything tightened down, it's always a good idea to just take some rubbing alcohol and a clean cloth and wipe everything down, especially any of the polished materials that are on the system, just to make sure that any oil or dirt that got on your hands while you were installing it doesn't transfer over and burn into the system once you fire it up. And that wraps up our review and install of the C&L Proven Ground 4-inch single exhaust system with polished tip and side exit for your 15 to 20 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150, excluding Raptor, and 19 to 20 F-150 Limited. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.